let's go ahead and get started. It's 5:02. We have about 130 participants, 131 on the Zoom call as it stands for right now, adding as we go, 133 and going north. So it is a few of us in the room. Somebody asked the question what the chairs in the room were for. It was for any members of the North Course Improvement Committee that were here when Mr. Straker presented to us a week or so ago. If they wanted to come back and be in the room today, they were welcome to come back. Otherwise, we asked everybody else to Zoom in. So that's where we're at today. So sitting in the middle of the room is Jason Straker. Mr. Straker will present on behalf of Fry and Straker Golf Course Design. I didn't say that right. It's golf. What is it? Is it golf?
That's okay. You did all right.
I did okay there? All right. And the purpose for today really is to take us through the process. It's not really to show you any drawings to speak of today, but it's really to take you through the process that we'll be going through over the next 30, 60, 90, 180 days, all the way up to getting something for us to begin to put in front of you at future town hall meetings. And so as we conclude the discussion today, we'll be talking about a survey that's coming out to you at the end of this week, and we'll also be talking about some future focus group meetings that we'll be hosting, not only here at Quail Ridge, but in different parts of the country. So in an attempt to give all of you an opportunity to give Jason and his team all the feedback that you're willing to give them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jason and let him roll.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Good evening, everybody out there in Zoom land, wherever you may be. I hope you're enjoying some good summer weather and nice cool temperatures. Hopefully many of you up north. So today, as Bill said, I just want to take some time, briefly introduce myself and my company so that many of you hopefully are already familiar. I know that there's a number of members here that are members of our club elsewhere. But I also wanted to go through the design process and how many of you can participate. In fact, how all of you can participate. So it's we really espouse the team approach to design, and we're going to be looking forward to lots of feedback from you. And in certain ways, it has already started. So I'm going to ask Andy to bring up the presentation, which I'm hoping to keep to roughly about 30 minutes. And then we'll open it up to some questions. All right, you click it there. Hopefully this will work, everybody. Yeah. Okay. So just a brief background on Dana Fry, my business partner, and myself. Dana is out traveling right now. Dana and I have been working together for over 25 years. So it's we're more than just business partners. We're more like family, brothers. We've really, in many ways, grown up together. Dana and I, though, have very different strengths, if you will, and even personalities. Dana was an excellent collegiate golfer, played at Arizona. As a matter of fact, then he shot a course record while he was playing at the university, and then was introduced just by coincidence to Tom Fazio's right-hand man, a gentleman named Andy Banfield. And for many of you who are, for example, in the mountains in North Carolina right now, Andy was primarily responsible for the creation of Wade Hampton. Dana was actually on a bulldozer there, physically helping build that golf course. Dana went to work for Andy and for Tom Fazio for about 6 years, and actually, again, shaped, which is the artisan, if you will, the extension of the architect, many of Tom Fazio's top 100 golf courses. My background, a bit different, although I have worked in construction. I've also worked in agronomy and was in golf course maintenance for a number of years. I attended Cornell University, where I was an understudy of Tom Doak and Gil Hands, and then later on finished my master's degree in agronomy and environmental design. my background was that my master's thesis, if you will, was the first environmental demonstration golf course to be designed and built in the United States. And so that's one of the reasons why our company has a very strong environmental focus. But again, we bring to the table a myriad of different strengths in environmental sciences, in agronomy, in construction, and in golf course maintenance. But it's not just the two of us. We do have a very talented team. Some of you have already interacted with them. Certainly everybody in the room here has as well. Bill Kerman, who has worked for the company since 1988 or 89, is a professional engineer, a registered civil engineer. So when it comes time to doing difficult permitting, dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers, dealing, for example, with the canal that we have that runs through the North Course, he's a wonderful asset not only for our company but for our clients. We also have CAD and computer graphics staff, as well as another gentleman who's a senior design associate, Patrick Burton. Patrick was actually my first student. I taught at Ohio State for 10 years, and so Patrick got me into teaching, and he has come on board for about the last 8 or 9 years with our company. So again, it's Dana and I. We're always appointing people, but we do have talented staff supporting us as well. About the company, sort of like an accounting company or a law firm, the company has been in business for quite a long time, 60 plus years. So it's gone from, many of you probably have heard of it, Herdson or Herdson Fry, and now it's Fry Straka. I took over Mike's half of the company in 2012. As he wanted to slow down. Again, we've been at it for 60 years, over 500 projects worldwide. And that's new courses, and we have just about as many remodel projects. So, to our credit. So we work in pretty much every environment, with every budget from small to high and everything in between. And we've done quite a bit of work in Florida, and so we're working down in Miami now and then up and down the west coast of Florida. It's nice to have be working with such a historic club here at Quail, here on the East Coast. But as far as the environmental experience and permitting these types of projects, again, second to none. So we've done many, many projects in Florida, very used to working with this climate and within this type of a budget structure. So that's a little bit about Fry Straka and Dana and myself. What I really want to, again, focus on is this notion of team approach and how all of you can stay involved and what to expect over the next couple of months. Of course, as we set out with this master plan, we have a couple of goals. And of course, the first goal and the biggest one is defining what that scope of work is. And then we have to match the funding to it. So we don't want to create the absolute best plan that we can and then just have it sit on the shelf because we didn't do a good job of matching the budget structure and the funding to support it. So those go hand in hand. When we started with the club, the first thing that we asked to do was to create a team. And so here is your Quail Ridge Design or Improvement Committee team. You'll see that everybody on the professional staff is listed and is involved. And then we asked for a wide-ranging group of select members in different leadership positions. Please take note of everybody on your screen, and I believe the presentation will be available to everybody afterward. It's being recorded. So these are sort of representatives, if you will, for lack of a better analogy. But if you have questions, bring them to the members on the Improvement Committee team. I promise you that we'll get to the professional staff and it will get to Dana and myself and our staff so that we can ask the questions and consider comments and any concerns that you have. Again, please make note of that. There's also additional professionals that are consulting, Flynn Engineering and Mr. Dennis Schultz, who worked on the South Course as well and successful permitting. They're involved again, as is Dave Reagan from Reagan Technical Solutions as your irrigation consultant. So again, very cohesive, very strong team. As we go through it, we consider the project to have two complementary but different components. Part A, which is the technical design process, is sort of the nuts and bolts of the process. And then the part B, the historic and the artistic and the playability issues. Both are equally important, but both have to work together to be successful. Just so you're aware, that when we talk about a functional design process, it is very long, very detailed, so that way you can feel confident as we go through it that really no stone is left unturned. But these are all the different items or stages of that functional design process. We have already put together a schedule, and so we're adhering to that schedule. A few pieces are grayed out that you can see. So we're working on the constraints of the base mapping. As Mr. Langley had alluded to, you'll be getting a club survey, which will be coming out a little bit later this week. And we're already working with the GPS data logger program, and I'll show you what that means and what it looks like and sort of the information that we glean off of it. And you'll notice here under 1.5, first town hall meeting, that's what we're doing right now. So again, upcoming tasks will be survey, focus groups. We'll touch base about that in just a little bit. But this is your functional design process and the schedule. Notice at the very end here, master plan phase, development of the final master plan. We're really looking at it from mid-January into mid-February. That's what our target is. So we would like to have this master plan finished before all of you return back home to the north this coming year. Okay, the part B part of it, which is a lot of sort of the fun aspect of it, is, again, this will come out in the survey and our focus groups. We're going to talk about where golf is at Cradle Ridge right now and how the golf and the community are evolving. We'll talk about catering to a greater diversity of player skills as maybe the golf club gets a little bit younger, bringing in newer, younger members, but also as people age, being able to stay a member here and enjoy the golf courses. That's really important to us. We'll talk a lot about artistic presentations to make the golf course even more beautiful than it is, but without overcomplicating Mr. Ramsey's maintenance. Many times people ask about whether this is being done just simply to cater to better players, and I can promise you that is not the case. So I put this slide up here that this design process will focus on, again, a wide range of playing abilities. It's important to note that Dana and I both raised our children in the game of golf. My children started playing when they were about 4 or 5 years old. Dana has raised his children playing the game. As a matter of fact, his stepson is a very competitive golfer right now, but he certainly didn't start that way. My wife learned as an adult, as did her parents, and so they took up the game when they were in their 50s. And if it wasn't for really fun, enjoyable golf courses, they would have probably stuck to something other than golf. And so, as a matter of fact, I was fortunate to have a family reunion this past week, and it was nice to be able to play with my father for almost the first time in over a year. And my father is about 80 years old and put his arm around me and mentioned, he said, Jason, he said, you know, as you're out there and working and designing and building these golf courses, he said, remember all the good times that we've had together and how important that is to our relationship and to literally the millions of golfers that are out there. And he says, as I continue to get older, he says, I can't hit the ball maybe more than 140 or 50 yards anymore. And he said, these moments together, you know, we cherish them and remember that as you're doing your design work. So it's really, really important for all of you to understand that those are memories and design principles and things that we don't take for granted and are really important to the design work that we do. Okay, as we go through this, we want to build a lot of confidence and trust and support for the project. And again, the more interactive that we can make it, the better off that we'll be and the better off we'll accomplish that. Right now, we're in sort of this phase 1, if you will, which is research and analysis. So Dana, myself, and our staff, we're trying to accumulate as much possible data as we can. And that will help us to create a better golf experience for all of you. Upcoming, as I said, is that you're going to get a club survey. I know that you just did one not that long ago, and that talked a little bit about the South Course and the golf club and the golf and the community overall. But this is going to be focused on the North Course. And we like to break it down by age, by gender, by handicap, and we slice and dice the data. This becomes a really helpful roadmap, if you will, when it comes to prioritizing dollars spent and understanding what's really important to the members here at Quail Ridge. So again, this analysis will go out. It will be administered online. It's super easy. The goal is 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If you want to write a book, that's okay too. The most recent survey that we did had about 100 pages of typewritten comments. I promise you we read and considered every single one of them. So please, please, please participate. Right now, another way to participate for the members who are here is by utilizing our GPS data loggers. So right now, the data logger is the little blue thing that's in the bottom right of your screen. Just is basically the size of a thumb drive from a computer, if you will. And what we do is that we track people's rounds of golf as they play. You put it in your pocket or put it on your belt loop and forget about it and go out and play golf. But this is just a sample of what that might look like. Our goal is to accumulate about 200 rounds at a minimum, but we're already at 100, and we've got a couple of weeks to go. So there's a good chance that we're going to have about 300 plus rounds of data. Things that we use it for to analyze, maybe areas of the golf course that don't come into play. So if we get in a discussion about water conservation and looking to maybe put certain landscaping or low maintenance landscaping in, we can do it with confidence to know that they're not in play areas. We look for things such as sand bunkers, which don't come into play, and sand bunkers are just as costly to maintain as putting greens are. We'll look for traffic problems or slow play areas. And so again, it's another really useful tool. So for the members that are here, please go ahead and take part in the program. We really appreciate it. Again, another way to participate in the design process. And then, starting next week, middle of next week, we will be conducting what we call our stakeholder meetings. They're sort of like focus group meetings, but focus group implies that we're sort of handpicking members to come in and meet with us when that's not really the case. We want to meet with as many of you as possible really over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Next week, we're going to have 3 sessions here at Quail, as we'll be coming up to the North Carolina mountains. We'll be coming into Quebec City and Montreal, as well as Northeast in Providence in the Boston area. Again, these are going to be sessions to talk about your club. We're going to learn. My staff, myself, Dana, Patrick, we're going to learn from you. We'll have some questions, but they're really informal, fun, and gatherings. And again, if you have the opportunity, and we'll get to those dates and the locations, please, please, please participate. Once we've gathered all of this data, so again, it's from the survey, meeting with you, doing these stakeholder meetings, studying the golf course, we'll create a list of desired goals. Obviously, you undertook this process right from the beginning, identified a need, and we're going to go through and vet all of those needs and probably find things more. Again, we'll create this desired goal list. We've done all of this work that you're seeing on the screen. It's ongoing and upcoming, but we do all of that before we even put paper to pencil for actually starting any design work. And so again, we'll create this desired goals, if you will, and then finally, we'll get into the design. And the first step of that is what we call schematic design. And so we're going to be looking at a lot of quick options, maybe moving some key angles around, maybe shortening holes or lengthening holes, maybe moving some green locations if it helps improve playability or speed of play, if you will. Again, we're going to go through lots and lots and lots of schematics. We're going to be working on that with the committee, and we continue to do that until there's a 1 or 2 designs that sort of emerge. At that point, then, we will re-engage many of you in the Quail Ridge community. Just to take a look, this is one project And these are all the different schematic layouts for one project. This all happened before we got to a final design. I think that there were roughly 30 or 35 different schematics for this particular project. This is in Clearwater, before we finally settled on final design, if you will. This is how busy we are with our staff and your improvement committee. They're already locked in, so it's too late to run now. But again, lots and lots of vetting. So once we have that schematic design, and the best analogy I can give you is that it's sort of building the skeleton of the golf course. And that may not mean moving every golf hole or even the majority of them. It may mean just verifying the holes that are out there and looking for opportunities to improve it. But whatever it ends up being, again, there's no set notion. We haven't got into any design work whatsoever. But once that happens, we've built the skeleton of the golf course, then we can add a lot of the detail. And this is a phase that people start getting excited about because they start to see things come more to life. So we actually add all of the yardages to every specific tee, sizing all the tees, the greens, the bunkers, starting to really analyze the strategic value of every individual golf hole. But that's what design development sort of looks like. As we're going through this, I want to make sure that you have confidence that we are tracking what all the different costs would be. And as we're looking at big picture level of schematics, any substantial changes in one direction versus another will carry a cost factor with them. So there are a number of sheets that are shown up on the screen here. You'll see the far left one is one particular hole. There's roughly 40 or 50 different categories that we track. And we start to reach out to local vendors and contractors, and of course all the projects that we're working on in Florida too, so that we have a full understanding and that we can communicate clearly to the leadership and the members here of what the different designs would cost. That's only in construction. Now the middle part to it is what we call project budget. So that'll come into things such as carrying how long the golf course may be shut down, soft costs. Again, we leave no stone unturned. So you have construction cost estimates and then project cost estimates. All of those then get vetted with phasing plans, which is the sheet on the right. So again, when I tell you that we're really, really detailed, I truly mean it. And then finally, again, this will be after another couple of town hall meetings, again, engaging not only the improvement committee and the professional staff, but all of you. Then we have a finished master plan. It will be hole by hole, such as shown on the right, and is an overall shown on the left. Again, these are the pretty picture drawings that everybody likes to see, but there's a lot of work that goes into creating those. Again, as we go through the process, just to reiterate once more, is that back to phasing, we track the hole-by-hole cost structure, and we revise it, continually revise it as we're going through the design process. Once we get a positive vote from the club, and knock on wood, we've never had a vote fail any place. So we've got quite the track record to keep it going. Then we get into the construction plans and details and the permitting aspect of it. Again, very detailed. We try to build as tight of a box as we can to get the biggest bang for the club's buck. Again, just to start to build some support and confidence when the project goes out to bid. All of these costs that we've tracked, this is what a bid sheet looks like. So you'll see contractors on the top of the list, all the different categories on the left. We utilize this to help the club make sure that, first off, that no contractor has forgot something, left it out, or overbid it. It's also a very useful negotiating tool. And then we also do a lot of different alternates, bid alternates, which are sort of on the bottom. Those give us the, well, what if we did this and what if we did that scenarios. So again, trying to give the club as much useful information as we possibly can. And then, once we get a contractor that's on board and we go to construction, I'm very glad to say that Dana and I are on site every week for multiple days. Many times both of us will be here together. Again, but we're always here. We spend a lot of time. That's really important to us, that we continue that tradition of our company, that the principals are involved. It doesn't get passed on to anybody else. You've hired Dana and I, so either Dana or I or both of us will be on site every week during active construction. Again, these are different ways that all of you, as a reminder, can participate, right? So please take that membership survey, which will be coming out. You'll have a couple of weeks to do it. For those of you who are in town, volunteer and take the GPS data logger. There's no name attached to it. The only thing that we ask for is your gender and your handicap. That's all we want to know. So take the GPS data logger, take it out and participate. Again, you can see that we're very team oriented. Anytime that we do have a town hall meeting, it's nice that we have well over 100 folks tonight, but we'll have more that are upcoming. We'll publicize it well in advance, but please participate. The stakeholder meetings coming up, I would love to meet many of you at your home areas. So again, North Carolina, Quebec City, Montreal, and we'll be in Providence, Boston area, as well as here at Quail. Later in the year, we might do some golf course tours, maybe some cocktail nights, maybe set up some tours at some of our other golf courses. Again, we'll do a very good job of keeping involved with your news, your monthly newsletters that go out. We'll try and get to as many club events as we possibly can, to meet as many of you as we can as well. And so again, it's many ways for all of you to participate in this process, and I encourage you to do it. As we go through it, we have our own public relations staff too. I know that this is something that is key to the club, but will help build as we go through it and as the design starts to evolve, and then as we get into construction, and then afterward, we want you to get as much positive publicity as you want, and we will help you do that to the best of our ability. Again, these key member dates that we've got. So GPS data logger program, we're running it now. It'll run through at least August the 9th, and this will be available to you, so you don't have to scribble feverishly here. The survey will come out, I believe the 30th is Friday, if I'm accurate. We're going to run it to August the 13th, so you got a couple of weeks to do it. And Mr. Langley tells me that you guys do a good job here of encouraging people and sending out a couple of reminders every so often. Our stakeholder meetings, again, this will get communicated to you in your email. We're going to have them here on August the 4th at 2 and at 5, and then on the 5th in the morning. So we'll have a coffee on, and hopefully you'll join us. I know that we'll be at Royal Quebec on the 17th, at Laval on the 18th of August. We'll be at one of our clubs in Providence area, Shelter Harbor, on August the 23rd. Those times will be announced, by the way. And then up in the North Carolina mountains on the 26th, probably in the Linville area, is what we're thinking. So again, we'll get out these dates and the times, just so that everybody's got as much advance notice as we can possibly give them. So again, I hope to meet many of you. Please come and participate.
Do you need a location in the North Carolina mountains?
Yes, we need a location.
We'd be happy to host you at the Elk River Club in Banner Elk.
Okay. Who's speaking?
This is Bob Carney.
Okay, Mr. Carney. Okay, I see you now. Okay.
Hey, Bill.
Well, thank you for that. We appreciate that.
Yeah, that would cover any members within the Linville area because we're 10 minutes from Linville.
Yes, sir. Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you for the offer.
Sure.
So I think with that, if somebody wants to, I know I threw a lot of information out your way fairly quickly. There's a lot going on, but if there's some questions you want to type in or ask questions, I'd be happy to answer them the best I can. If not, we got a host of real intelligent folks here.
We got some hands up here. Let's see.
I have a quick question for the team here.
Please
This
go
is
ahead.
John McNulty, and first of all, thanks a lot for doing the presentation. It was a great presentation. I really appreciate seeing that. The question I had is, what is the budget that we're working off of for the design as well as what we're going to do to the course?
In terms of budget, we're carrying approximately the same budget with a small inflationary factor that we used for the South Course right now for preliminary planning.
And what is that budget?
We spent 7.3 on the South Course.
Okay, thank you.
So we're using a placeholder right now of 7.5.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that.
What other questions out there? Mr. Armstrong?
Wow.
How was that number arrived at, just out of the blue, or does someone, what groups fixed that number? I just am curious.
So, okay, it's a great question. And so none of us really know the answer to this right now because we're just starting the process. And so all we've done is looked at it from a long-range planning standpoint. The long-range planning committee, the finance committee, and the board of directors have looked at it, and we're carrying the same placeholder that we've used for the South Course. If we get into this process and the members tell us you want something significantly less, then that may change. If you tell us you want something significantly more, then it could change the other way. But we had to have a starting point to begin to engage somebody to come and do the work with. And so in order to do that, for example, we know that we've got to regrass the whole golf course. We know we've got to change all the irrigation. We know we're going to separate the main line. We know we're going to do cart paths, greens, bunkers. So we know we're going to be touching everything. And so you're not going to, no matter what we end up doing, you're not going to be far off of what we spent on the South Course.
I would point out that the South Course's construction is now like 2 years ago. So you do have 2 years potential inflation that we have to contend with. And, you know, there's also been some stepped up inflation in general that we're going to have to contend with. So in terms of pricing it to a similar scope as the South Course, it's going to be that price adjusted for inflation.
Right.
Bill, I have a question.
Yes, sir?
I know these designers are world-class designers, among the top 5, maybe perhaps in the country, if not the world at the current time. Is this budget sufficient to bring us a top flight golf course?
Well, I think, and I'll certainly be happy to let Jason answer this any way he likes, but I think from our standpoint, we've got to go through the process that we're just beginning to find out what it is that you, the members, want first. And then that's going to tell us whether or not it's the proper amount.
I think that's a good answer. Right now, it's, you know, I wish I could tell you one way or the other. I think that you were wise to have a placeholder where you have it, knowing that the vast majority, if not all of the infrastructure, it's time to be replaced. And so as we develop, you know, schematic designs and look for opportunities for improvement, if we, Dana and I, we find something that, you know, is significant, but maybe significantly different than what anybody was thinking, you know, just a unique opportunity, that's our job to bring it to the club then and say, here's what you can get out of this change, but this is what the cost is. So, and again, there's nothing for, you know, for those of you who are, you know, listening, we haven't gone into any of that yet. You know, we're just, again, as Mr. Langley said, we are just starting this process, starting this research and analysis. We're in the data gathering phase right now.
And I would add that the club has never been in a stronger financial position than it is now. We had record-setting new membership sales last year. So our designated fund balance is much greater than we anticipated when it's to the South Course. So we're actually starting from a much stronger point than we anticipated a couple of years ago. So there's just that increase in designated fund should more than cover any inflationary factor that's occurred over the last 2 years. So I don't think you should get pinned down on $7.5 million. We're going to present a very responsible financial model that's going to be very digestible to the community, do everything within our power so that you're in a good position to make an informed decision as to the viability of this project and what it means to Quail Ridge in general. So just wait for the details. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised when it's time to release that financial model.
Yes, sir. There you have it.
Bill,
Dr. Van Os.
yeah, it's Andre Van Os. Nice presentation, thank you. Seems very organized. I have a question which is plaguing the whole of the country at the moment. How is the supply chain issue that most building industries are experiencing at the moment going to be handled, A, from the point of view of the inflation of goods and building materials, as well as delays in delivery, which is stretching timeline in many projects all over the country?
It's a good question. Supply chain has affected the golf industry just as it has, many other facets of the building industry as well. We're learning ways around it in the short term, having golf contractors and general contractors go and actually pick up the materials, many of the materials, rather than having them be delivered to the club or the site. But we're also, keep in mind is that you're going to be voting as a club on this come winter time, so not until next year or early spring. Then we have to go through all the permitting aspect of it. And so, we're not really looking at construction until then, even the year after next. So right now it's, I could give you a more definitive answer of how we would work around that issue or deal with it in the short term. But if we're projecting out, roughly 2 years from now, a little difficult to do that. But we will definitely be prepared.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like trying to predict the stock market in a year from now as well.
That's right. That's
The,
exactly right.
I know a lot of people are having a lot of trouble. And when you look at what happened to industry in general, as well as the labor force not coming back in a very joyful way to come and work, people are having a lot of trouble getting projects done. And I think we should be realistic and build in a real delay in finishing date. I hope that's not true, but
We can be early to tell. Right, it's a little too early to tell. I will tell you that, so for example, some of without getting too far down into the weeds or the details, of course, the earlier that we can reserve many of the materials, such as sand or the grass materials, we can do that. That's one way to do it. Another way, for example, if we know how much bunker sand we're going to use, you may buy it and actually buy it direct and have it delivered to the club and have it here ahead of time. So, there are pluses and minuses to doing that, but we'll help Joe and help the club go through some of those issues so that we can avoid as many pitfalls as we can.
thank you.
I'd like to ask a question if I could, Bill and Jason.
Yes, sir.
My question is a specific question, different from some of these general questions. Jason, you talk about your data bloggers that you're putting on the people that are using and playing the golf course right now. The majority of those people, I presume, are of a lesser age, or their age group is much lower than the people that are going to play the golf course in the wintertime. They have a different ability, they have different skills, they hit different distances with their clubs. And if the data blockers stop on August the 9th, I'm afraid they're going to give you a distorted view of the distances that most of our golf players play, and could possibly distort what your distances could be regarding the players at Quail Ridge?
We're both gonna answer this one, but I'm gonna answer it first by telling you, Mr. Grove, we are not putting them on the, summer participants. We're only putting it on our year-round members that are living here, so. so
Enough said. I'm through. Good. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had 3 questions, actually.
Okay.
I'm in Quail North, in 10223, and I had 3 questions. One, are you planning on using Roundup to kill all the grass again? That's my first question, because as we all know, there's a class action suit against them for the carcinogenic factors that are associated with that product. The second question I have is, what is the satisfaction of the South Course based on the changes that have been made? Can you give us a number, or 50% happy? And then the last would be, what's the budget split on the $7.5 million between infrastructure, consulting, and then the reconfiguration of the course? So where are the dollars actually in absolute terms going?
Okay, we can piece some of those, okay.
Yes, sir.
As far as the roundup goes, I haven't even had that discussion with Joe, yet. I can tell you that we track that very closely, and I have a full understanding. I'd be happy to sit down with you if you're actually local, even next week. We can actually go through that together if you would like, and what that class action lawsuit is truly about, and how it came to be. So that's, if you'd like to do that, I'd be more than happy to. So secondly, next question was, as far as the, help me out here.
Was that the budget question?
Well, there was budget and satisfaction of the South Course. Those were the 2 questions.
Oh, okay, the satisfaction of the South Course. So, as you know, we sent out the original survey this year, and the South Course ranked below the North Course, and so that certainly told us that we had missed the mark somewhere on the South Course, and so we sent out the separate survey on the South Course. And so at this point, we've identified 4 holes that we've reached out to the golf course architect, and he's going to be in town this week to go over those 4 holes and look at some potential changes on those holes. What we've said all along is that after a year and a half or 2 years, we would go out and ask each of you what you thought about the golf course, and we did, and we've taken your information and shared it with him so that he can come back and begin to make any tweaks that are necessary to the hole. Overall, the golf course gets good rankings. There's just some holes that people think are maybe too tough for them. And, if I could tell you the one that got the highest dissatisfaction rating was hole number 6, for example. And so we've asked him to take a hard look at that. So the holes that he's going to be looking at on this trip are 6, 7, 12, and 15 will be the 4 holes that he's going to be looking at several items on those holes. And then in addition to that, we're going to make a couple of little tweaks ourselves to hole number 5, and I think there was one other one, Joe, that I don't remember. But
Number 5.
So that's over and above the 7.3 that we've already spent.
Any
That
tweaking is yes, ma'am. But we're
About
not,
how
we're not
much?
talking about, we don't know the scope of it yet. That's why he's coming this week, but I don't think we're talking about big numbers. I think we're talking about filling in a bunker here or moving a bunker a little bit or something minor. We're not talking about a significant amount of money.
Okay.
Is
And
it
then
what
last
it's gonna share?
but not least is the budget split. So consulting versus infrastructure, which we all know has to happen. And then third and last, design and then actual construction of the course.
So right
How,
now,
how
we
does that 7.5 split down?
well, I mean, I can give you rough numbers right now. I mean, but this is strictly speaking off the top of my head. You're probably a little over 2 for irrigation. I mean, your bunkers are $1 million. I mean, this is how general this is right now based on what had been done on the South Course. Your question is sort of assuming that there's designs that have happened and there haven't yet. So that's, you know, the question of how that 7.2 gets split. I mean, they're really just big categories at this point.
But you've given me 3, so now there's 4.5 missing. So the 4.5 is design and consulting?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. So I can tell you that, with the have to do stuff, including all of the soft costs, and associated architect's fees and engineering fees and everything else was about 80% of the 7.3 that we spent. About 20% of that was physical changes to the golf course.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's how I was gonna, okay.
And just so everybody knows, going back to, and I can't read that really well. Man, I can't see your name up on the screen. But your second question about the survey of the South Course, Dana, myself, and our staff will be looking over that survey so that we have some idea of how you're reacting to what's out there on the ground and how that might influence what happens on the North Course too.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I have a question. John Woggy, Jen Aston. How much work have you done with Audubon International courses?
So quite a bit of Audubon International. Audubon International, though, is not specific to golf. Audubon International is also tends to be for profit, and so they focus also on schools and other facets. We actually, right now, I sit on advisory committee for it's called the Golf Environment Organization, which is solely specific to golf, and it's vetted by a independent third party, which Audubon International certification is not. And so I've actually helped write the sustainability principles to certify for voluntary programs. It's called GEO. Anybody could look it up, Golf Environment Organization, GEO. They have a strong relationship with the RNA. They're based actually out of Scotland, and with USGA and several of our other governing bodies. But we have many, many golf courses. That's my expertise, is in environmental golf course design. That's the reason why I know I can speak confidently about the Roundup issue, but that's a whole hour-long discussion in itself.
Jason and Bill, I'd like to suggest that we mute all microphones till the end and have questions after Jason finishes his presentation.
Yeah, I'm done, sir. So we can ask away.
Eileen Watson, I have a question. We were told that irrigation needs to be redone on the North Course. Does this plan include the redo of the irrigation?
Yes, ma'am.
You're doing irrigation on the North Course.
Yes.
The answer is yes.
So that's included.
Colonel Watson, it also includes separating that main line so we can continue the replacement of the community-wide irrigation throughout the community as well.
Yeah, the
Thank you.
existing irrigation will be diverted for PLA purposes or community purposes, and a new irrigation dedicated to the golf course will be installed.
Other questions?
Bill, this is Dennis Sullivan. Can I ask a general question?
Yes, sir.
Why are we doing this? Is this mainly for infrastructure? How did the whole project start? Why? If someone says to me, "Why are you changing the golf course or working on the golf course?" What do we answer that? How do we answer that?
Well, I think we would probably have to go back 3 years or so ago. I think we would probably have to go back 3 years or so ago when we had some, oh, thank you, where we had some significant disease on the golf course on the greens, and we almost lost the greens on the north course, and everybody was up in arms because we had lost them for most of the season, and they kind of came back toward the end of the season. Joe did everything he could, and the reality is those greens have reached a point where they're at the end of their useful life, and so is the irrigation system on that golf course. And so, and as you know, if you play up there, we've got about every kind of grass on that golf course that God's ever made. So we can either keep doing like we're doing, or we can continue to try to get better as an organization. So.
Okay. Good answer. All right. I play the course, I have fun, I enjoy it, but you're pointing out all the more serious issues that need to be addressed. So thanks. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jason, this is Patrick Burton from Schmidt Curley. Jason, there are a few questions coming through on the chat. I don't know if you're able to put those up on the screen or if you want me to read them out.
Yeah, I see we got 11. Andy's falling down on his job.
No, goodness, Patrick, I can.
All right, let's get it on.
I shouldn't have said such nice things about you.
I got it. It says, is there a goal to change the slopes off of any tee? Is the first question. A goal to change the slopes off of any tee?
I'm not sure if we're talking about the actual like walk-ups from the cart paths, or we're talking about the slope grading. So that's going to be, we don't even have any defined goals quite yet, right? So that's going to be something which comes out in the survey and meetings with all of you, and we'll drill down on those details. I'm hoping that's what the question is in relation to.
The second question there is, how much have you worked on Audubon International courses? We answered that one. The next question, I think, has to do with the page down, Andy, if you would. Right there. We're not using the summer participants to collect the data tracking information. Same to Ms. Coons, who dittoed Susan's comment.
We answered that.
Don't let Hassan wear a GPS logger. He may need a total. I'm not touching that one. How long will you be collecting data for? As mentioned above, you're collecting summer members. Well, we've answered that one. So, and part of it is, and we talked about that before this meeting. Jason and I had a little conversation about maybe doing that again in the fall. The trouble is it gets us way late in getting preliminary information back to you guys for town hall information. So I think the data loggers are more of a confirmation of what they tend to think already when they see it in the field, and it'll either prove it up or disprove it for them, but they certainly can speak to them.
Well said. Yeah, well said. It's a tool. It's a tool in our toolkit or tool belt.
We've answered the question for Ms. Brunel on the satisfaction rating. Here's one: as a new owner, is this a done deal or exploratory? It is not a done deal until you as an owner have the opportunity to vote for it. We would anticipate bringing this to a vote of the member sometime in March or April of this coming year. So at this one, can someone explain why we need to redo the north course? I think we've just spoken to that.
Wait. There's
Did we miss one?
Yeah. At what point in the design process would a decision be made to complete redesign or only remodeling? As we get into the schematic design process, that's when that'll end up being vetted, whether we're talking about smaller pieces and parts, or a total remodel. And then we'll start to price out what each of those looks like and what you get. As Mr. Langley said, it's tough to do just a small remodel when you're talking about upgrading so much infrastructure. Now, I can't read that one now.
No, we've answered this one.
Okay.
So explain why. Hold on right there. Since I'm brand new, I have no history on how the North Course redo came about. I was not told about it when purchasing, and since it would be very costly, there would be more. Will there be more explanation as to why this is on the slate? Yes, and so you can come to any one of these stakeholder meetings, and we're happy to talk more about it. You'll certainly hear more about it as we go on from the North Course Improvement Committee. You'll hear more about it from Long Range Planning Committee, the Finance Committee, ultimately the board as we get into next fall and through the season next year. There'll be plenty of opportunity for you to learn everything about it. And yes.
Yeah, and the question was about slope, was the slope rating. So there will be opportunities in the survey to talk about golf holes that you think for you are too difficult or too easy or just right. If you think that you need to be playing off of a forward set of tees and you don't have them here, again, opportunity to comment on that. Same thing with the stakeholder meetings, you certainly will be discussing that as well. It's impossible to design to a slope rating. As a matter of fact, I even had dinner, Dana and I had dinner with Mike Davis of the USGA about a month or so ago, and we told him that it's amazing how many times we get asked that, and he said it would be impossible to do so. You're really designing for a particular skill set, limiting forced carries, providing alternative ways around hazards, those types of things. But unfortunately, we don't control what a slope rating is for the golf course.
That was the last question.
That's the last one, last written one. Is
any more? If you have a question you want to ask, just unmute yourself and ask the question.
I'm sitting here as a member. I golf for a long time. Probably 20, 30 years I've been golfing. I'm not anymore. And it's because of injuries, operations. So I know my point is, like Ronnie talks about, the lower handicap player is kind of at not important. And if they put a good player with a bad team, same thing happens. And so I'm here if you need any help, I'll be at your side.
good? Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think the good news is members will have the opportunity to really speak to it in the survey that comes out of all handicaps and all playing abilities. So we'll get some good feedback there, I think.
One question I had is, does your firm have a philosophy of design? The North Course was really a design by Joe Lee as a Florida golf course. The South Course design was completely changed by our latest redesign. Are you going to redesign the entire golf course, or are we going to have a Florida, quote, golf course?
At this point, we have no idea. We're just, again, in the information gathering stage, and I truly mean that. So, I mean, it's, as a golf course architect, Dana and I, we've been out on the golf course a half dozen times at least now. I mean, do we see opportunities to make golf holes more unique, more fun, that drain better, that are more playable? Absolutely, we do. We're going to share those ideas, and then they're going to be vetted in terms of cost, and then it's going to be the club's decision. So, but, in terms of changing an entire design style, we first off, our firm doesn't have one design style. If anybody's played a bunch of our golf courses, even in Florida, Calusa Pines looks and plays, way different than Naples National, then you have several members here that are Shelter Harbor, versus Erin Hills, versus the South Course of Arcadia Bluffs, which looks like, for those of you who are golf architecture connoisseurs, a Seth Rayner design. I mean, it's not, some people sort of latch on to, does your golf courses look like a Pete Dye or a Donald Ross or a Mackenzie Tillinghast? And ours are all different on purpose.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Frank Donato? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Is there going to be an assessment?
So there's going to be an assessment? Is that the question?
I would say to you that is too early to tell too. So we've got to go through this work and we've got to go through all of the master planning work, then put the finance committee back to work. And then as we begin to do the town hall meetings, when most everybody gets back this fall, I think we'll have a much better handle on what we're talking about.
I think he muted himself. Any others out there? We've got just a minute or so.
I have a question. And Fred Skolko, it relates to the soil composition and the quality of the soil that exists there now. One of the things that's maintenance-wise very costly is the annual cost for maintaining the soils, specifically the grasses, and the quality that we want. What do you envision as the quality of the soils that we have now? How can you rejuvenate them? And what science in agronomy principles have come about that can improve the soil we presently have, and how are you going to go about doing that?
I can answer some of that. You want to start?
I can certainly start. We have a very sandy base here on a natural sand ridge, so our soil quality is not terrible. We do have years of buildup organic matter from the age of the golf courses, but once we start construction and we begin tilling in that organic matter, it'll vastly improve the structure of the soil and the health. It'll make it much better.
Right, and so right now, we also, from a construction standpoint, we have, again, because we don't have a design, so we have no idea what type of soil disturbance that we will have. And so as we go through that and we identify places that there may be cuts or fills, in particular cuts, we'll end up doing soil samples. So we'll actually do some soil boring, some soil sampling. So we'll have an idea of the material that we have. We also then do a good job of organizing that material to keep the best soil and the soil structure on top, if you will. So if we end up with clays or organic, a lot of organic material, that tends to get put at the bottom. And again, we're trying to provide a surface that utilizes the least amount of fertilizers and pesticides and obviously labor. And so we're keen on making sure that we're going to maintain or improve the soil structure as best that we can. There's also cost that comes into some of that too. So, as we go through it, and again, that comes down into the vetting of, budget items as well.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just one, have there been any improvements in the additives in terms of bacterial content as well as the organic content, so that the natural decomposers can also have a part to play in the rejuvenation of the nutrients in the soil, other than the addition of fertilizer?
I'm soil amendments.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Joe will have to speak to what, if any, he uses here, but I mean, there are a number of those. I mean, it's, we'll specify sometimes mycorrhizal amendments, some bacterial amendments, that get applied. So there are a number of different things, but Joe can talk about what he utilizes here.
Yes, when, for instance, on the South Course, some of the very sandy areas, we incorporated some compost materials. There's also biochar that's available.
So there's different ways to really encourage the biology of the soil. And we do, where it's applicable, we take advantage and we do that.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Andre Nato here. I got a question about type of grass. Will you prioritize the type of grass we use on the south course? Or will we use another type of grass on the north course?
I think that our preference would be to use Bimini, which is what's on the south course, so that we have a consistent quality of grass all the way throughout both golf courses, so that if you're using equipment from one to the other, you're not contaminating it. So it makes a lot more sense for us to do it that way.
Didn't we have problem with excess rainfall with the type of grass we use on the south course? And will that repeat itself in the coming years?
No, sir. Joe can certainly speak to this, but I think we had the excessive rainfall right after we planted it early in October, when just before we opened it, where it was washing through a lot of the fertilizer and everything that we put in it, because we had so much rain in such a short period. But that would happen regardless of whatever grass you had on the golf course. So,
Yeah, correct.
Yes, I mean, again, we're a couple of years out, but right now, Bimini has been a very strong turf. It's, as a matter of fact, it's been so popular that you need to order it quite a bit in advance. So it's been planted on quite a few golf courses now, and anywhere from really the Clearwater area from that latitude on down. And it's, we've been tracking the quality of it versus others, and it's been very, very successful.
yeah, it's a grass that was designed for a South Florida. It was grown in South Florida for South Florida, and that's why I think it's so successful as compared to some others that were, latitude a couple of years ago was the hot grass, and they tried to put it down here on some golf courses and ultimately figured out that this was too far south for that particular grass, and they began to have some issues with it. So I think so far, I think, Joe, you can speak to this, but I think you've been pretty pleased with it.
I think Bimini was a really great choice for us, and it's performed really well. And of course, we're always monitoring all the grasses that are being released, and we're always watching that. But right now, I would have to say that we have great grass choice on the south, and we would probably continue that. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you.
Any others out there?
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jason. Thank you for taking the time to come down today. There was 173, I think, was the high that I saw on the call today. So thank you for taking an hour or so of your day today to be with us. Watch your emails for the survey. Watch your emails for the stakeholder meetings, and we look forward to seeing you at one of those coming up real soon. So wherever you're at, have a great rest of your summer, and get your butts down here as quick as you can, okay? Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.